Sponsored by Tech Reload UK. Check out the purchasing links in the description below.
The next parcel weighs half a kilo. It's dated the 24th of April. It's a pull strip one, but I should be able to open up this in one go because there are lines going across. So this will come off in one piece. I messed it up, but maybe I shouldn't talk when I do this. Finally. But before I show you this, you need to like my video and subscribe.
So now it's okay?
There's just one more thing you need to do, and that is to click on the bell so that you get a notification when a new video comes out.
I hope it's okay.
Perfect. And it's a dash cam branded Abask. That's quite difficult to say. It's HD camera with HD video, so I'm guessing that takes videos and images. I should really show the front first, where it's a big camera with big lens, and it's got buttons on here. WDR, which is wide range of lights. FHD, which is full HD 1080p. When the vehicle is hit by external forces, the recorder can automatically lock the current recorded file. So that's got a G sensor in there which will record the file. Now, I've not heard the use of external forces used on a description. In fact, it does say G sensor on there. The LCD display is a 4-inch LTPS display, whatever LTPS is. The lens is 170 degrees, which is more than enough for a front camera. It's ultra wide lens. The language are English, German, French, Spanish and Italian. The file format is MOV. Who uses MOV in 2019? It's a 2 megapixel camera. The compression is H.264. It would be nice if it used H.265, but you need a powerful CPU to encode and decode it. Maybe the higher end dash cams will have H.265. With H.265 the files will be a lot smaller. The audio is AAC, which is fine. You've got loop recording, which basically overwrites the old files unless if they're locked. So it does say oldest unlocked videos. It supports WDR, which is the wide dynamic range that will allow you to see the dark sections and the light sections when you've got headlights there. It's got motion detection. Most dash cams don't have good motion detection. It can synchronize the time. How is it able to do that? It might do that over USB when you plug it into a computer maybe. Unless if this has got a GPS built in, I don't see how that's possible. We'll see when it powers up. If it has the correct time on there, that's good. It might have the wrong time zone. It might have Chinese time zone on there because that would be the default. The photos can be 1.3, 2, 3, 5, 8, 10 and 12 megapixels, which will be a JPEG file. There's nothing wrong with that. Memory card has to be class 10, and it says the maximum support is 32 gigabytes, and that is because this uses FAT32 file format, and in Windows you can only format up to 32 gig. With a bigger capacity you would have to use exFAT or NTFS, which won't be supported by this dash cam, but if you use a third-party tool you can trick the device to use a bigger capacity. Most devices won't check the capacity, they're just looking at the file format, and the SD-HD, which would be the 32 version, is the same as the SD-XC, which is greater than 32 gig, which supports exFAT. The SD-HD and the SD-XD doesn't mean anything at all, except one is bigger than 32 gig and the other is less than 32 gig. So you can ignore that section. If it did say SD-HD is the supported formatted SD card, and it will probably say it won't support the SD-XC, but you can put XC on there if you use a third-party format tool. It's just the 32 gigabyte limit. Windows follows this specification, but a third-party tool will allow you to bypass this. Obviously you can't still put a file greater than 4 gig on a FAT32 file system because the FAT tables won't support it, and there's probably a limitation to how many files you can have on FAT32 as well. But because these files are going to be quite large, you shouldn't have that issue. It's got a microphone, built-in stereo speakers. It just says built-in stereo, but obviously that's speakers. But why would you have stereo speakers on a small dash cam? Unless if it's saying it records in stereo. The video format is PAL and then NTSC. Frequency is 50-60 Hz, that's the screen refresh rate, depending on if you're in PAL mode or NTSC. It's got USB function and the power interface is 5 volt 1 amp. It's got an internal battery of 300 milliamp hours. At the top we've got the dash cam, the instruction manual which I won't need to use. We've got the USB cable, which is a mini USB cable. Why are we still using mini USB cables in 2019? We've got the car charger, which will also have a mini USB on there. I'm guessing if you plug the cable into a PC, it'll detect it's a PC and it'll go into webcam mode. That's got a nice red band on there. Why is that on there? It must have some important information. It tells you how it's wired up, so you got positive on pin 1 and negative on pin 5. So there's 5 pins on here. I've always thought there was 4 pins. I don't know what the 5th pin is for, because you have positive, negative and then 2 data pins. So the 5th one must have some special purpose. There's a red LED indicator on there. It says ROSH on there, FC, and it's a Chinese export or certified electronics or whatever it stands for. I don't know what the 1905 number is. This is a 5V 2A charger. I've just seen something in there which I forgot it has. We got a window suction, so you put this on. Obviously you take this off first, this plastic protection, and you push that way to lock it. So let's see if I can lock that onto this mat. Probably won't work on the mat, in fact it does a little bit. Let's see if it works better on the table. So I can put that on there. Now stuck. It will stick better if I remove the plastic, but I've left the plastic on. So that would then screw into the camera, and then you've got this locking mechanism to lock into the camera. You've got this ball joint here, but you can use this to undo it and then do your angle and then tighten it up to lock it, because the windscreens are different angles and you can have it to the car's windscreen. We've got a customer service card with the email addresses, and then this bag is the rear camera. We've got a double-sided sticky pad with 2 self-tapping screws if you wanted to screw into the metalwork of your car, which would probably cause it to rust if it's not aluminium, which I don't know why people want to do that. But then these sticky pads are not really that strong to hold onto here. I've learned that do not bend this too much, and if you put too much force into it, you could snap this in half and then snap the camera and the cable. There are 4 white LEDs on here, so this would support reverse function probably, or nighttime mode. So this isn't really a starlight camera. Starlight cameras are better. You got good quality night vision without the use of white LEDs. This cable, you've got a red cable here, so I'm guessing this will be to switch on these lights when you put the car into reverse. So this will give you better vision when you're reversing. There's a 4-pin connector on here. That does not want to remove. There we go. I just need to force it. In fact, it's a 5-pin connector, which you can just basically see there. Normally the 4-pin, so that extra signal must go through to this pin here, but it doesn't. So what's happening here is this cable here is the 5th one, which is your reverse light, and then you got 4 pins here. Now I have learnt that you shouldn't mix the cameras up. So if you got one dash cam, don't put another reversing camera on there, even if it has the same connector. I did that on my car and I noticed that the car engine was struggling as if it was being shorted out. Nothing died, so that's good, and the car still works, but if I would have left that on for a bit too long, it could have been bad. None of the fuses popped also as well, so if it's putting that much of a stress on the car battery, it should have popped the fuses, but I was lucky. And here is the dash cam. So that is the 4-inch screen. It's nice and big. We got a menu button, left and right for the menu navigation. We've got on, in fact these are the buttons here, and then we've got what looks like a menu button. So this one will be the menu button with the 3 lines, and then the top one with the mode button. Here we've got what looks like the DC input. It looks like a, no, that actually is not a DC input, that looks like a tripod mount. In fact that's for this here, so that would screw onto there and then you would use that to tighten it after you screwed it in. Mini USB, and that's the 4-pin for this camera here. So I'm guessing also when you wire this up to the positive is that this camera will switch to the reversing camera, so you can use this to help you reverse, which is quite good. On the front we've got 2 LEDs here behind some frosted plastic. There's a reset button there because some dash cams do crash. There's 2 mesh sections here, so one could be a speaker, one could be a microphone, or that could be the dual microphone for stereo audio. I don't know why you would need that. And then this lens looks nice and fancy. That's all it is though, it's nice and fancy. It doesn't actually do anything. And there's a cover on there. We've got a quality control sticker on there and somewhere for the SD card to go. To power this up, I'm going to use the USB cable because I don't have a car charger in my recording office and there's no point really going to the car. So let's power this in. So the connections are at the top. Oh, it's got that horrible sound. Okay, so we got storage mode, PC mode, or recording mode. This has only come up because I plugged it into a PC. If I didn't, I wouldn't have these options. So let's go to recording mode. Oh, it's got that horrible sound as well. And then I would have to press OK. So we've got reverse camera here in the top right, and we've got the main camera on the main image. There's no automatic night mode. It probably comes on when I stick 12V onto this, but I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. can't stick this onto somewhere which will give me 12 volts. I can't connect it onto this battery like this because it needs to make a circuit, so I'd have to put the negative on there, also on here. It's going to be quite difficult to show that bit. So let's switch off the lights and see what it looks like at night. Okay, we can still see some of the image. You can see how dark that is, and that makes it brighter. There's no street lights or anything like that, so that is quite well lit. Obviously this camera here would have the option to turn these LEDs on if I could put 12 volts onto this red cable. We can see the resolution is 1296p, which is greater than 1080p. I don't have a memory card in here, so I can't demonstrate recording. There is a headlight symbol on here, which means it's too dark. It knows that the car's headlight isn't on, so if I put this on, or maybe it's disabled, so you could enable that feature. So let's go into menu. We've got the resolution, we've got the 1296p, 1080p, 720p, dual camera. We can switch the rear camera on and off. Enable loop recording to either 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, or off. This is in case if it crashes, lost up to the last 3 minutes. You could set this to 1 minute, but then you'll have lots of files. You can set it to 5 minutes, but then you could potentially lose 5 minutes of recording. This would happen on a slower memory card when the battery is running out, because with MP4 files, the last section of the file is important. There are ways of recovering it by using another donor file, which will capture the end section, and then you apply that end section onto the main video that you've corrupted to restore the file. So there are ways of recovering that, but it's best not to do that. Interval recording, I'm not sure what that does. It's off. 100 milliseconds, 200 milliseconds, and 500 milliseconds. Interval recording. Not sure about that one. WDR should be enabled, so we can switch that off, see what that looks like. Don't think that's done anything. It's probably more noticeable if you've got a strong light coming in. You can adjust the exposure, positive and negative. Motion detection is off, because these cameras are not really that great with motion detection. They could lead to lags and miss the actual recording by the time it's detected the motion, and also it'll consume power whilst in motion detection mode until the battery is gone. You can enable and disable recording of the audio. Date stamp is on. You can switch that off if you wanted to. G sensor is set to medium. You can make it more sensitive, less sensitive, or just completely switch it off. Parking guard. Now this is if your car is switched off, so basically it disconnects the power. It can monitor silently, and if there's any knocks or someone crashes into your car whilst you're away, it can start recording. So that is off at the moment. If it is on, it will keep draining the battery. So that's currently off, and then we go back to the top. That's on the first section. Then there's another section which will have the settings. We've got a screwdriver and a spanner that will give us our time controls. And let's see, so we've got display protection that will auto power off the display, which is currently set to off. You can set up it 30 seconds, 1 minute, or 2 minutes. Next is auto power off. So if this had no power to it, how long should it wait until it turns off? So this will go off straight away as soon as I unplug it. You could leave it on for a minute, 3 minutes, or 5 minutes. So basically if you set it to 5 minutes, this will continue recording for 5 minutes after you've taken the key out of the ignition and then switch off. Frequency is 50-60 Hz, as we saw on the back of the box. Beep sound you can turn on and off. It's probably best to have this off. Language, which we've already seen on the back. In fact, we got Chinese as well, which wasn't on the back of the box. Chinese is probably the default language, but they've set it to English because it is at the top. Date time, let's see. That is not the right date, so I'm not sure what it means by synchronize the date. The time's wrong, the date's wrong, and it's Chinese format, so they have the year, month and day first. We got fill light. Let's see what happens when we switch that to on. Not sure what that does. Let's go out of this. So the no entry sign on the light has gone off. Not sure what's happening there. Oh, so that's what the fill light is. It turns these lights on, so you can have these on, off, or automatic. So when it gets dark, these can come on. In fact, it is dark in this room. Press OK and it says insert SD card. Let's go back to mode. In fact, mode will go to camera mode, file mode, or video mode. I want to go back into the menu, and then I want to go to back onto here, and then go to fill light, switch that to off. So now that switched these lights off. Format will format the SD card. Now if you did use the trick to confuse the dash cam to support a larger than 32GB drive, format on here could cap the SD card at 32GB. so you would lose the excess storage. If you did that, then you would have to use the third-party tool again. Default settings will wipe everything, and then we can see the version, which is FH-5X-2019 June the 27.2. so that is quite recent, and that's it. So let's go back to this mode here. So menu brings that on, and that's it. There's no other settings. We've got the WDR indicator, which means it's on. It's not touchscreen. We've got the dates and timestamp at the bottom. Microphone is enabled. That's probably going to have a line through it, or probably disappear if it's not there. We've got the charge indicator here, SD card indicator here, battery indicator there. Loop recording is on. The exposure is set to 0, and we're in camera mode. And that's basically it. But this quality looks decent enough. It's able to capture a lot of detail there in this low light condition, but then it doesn't really tell me what the actual recording is going to be like. The only way to tell that is to have the actual sample recording. If you've liked this video and found anything useful, leave a thumbs up. If you haven't done already, please subscribe and click on the bell for more notifications. And could you also like my Facebook page? And I'll see you next time.